This morning I watched the video that is being promoted by the Invisible Children organization for the Kony 2012 campaign, and I have now joined the over 6 million people who have watched it in just the past couple of days. And when I was watching it, of course I was moved. Of course there were moments when I was near tears, and that is because this is obviously discussing historical events and a cultural situation where there's massive amounts of suffering and crimes against humanity, and it's also just very well done in terms of filmmaking. The people know what they're doing, and they know the art of narrating a story to make it persuasive and compelling. And so, in many ways, I decided to share the video because I agree and support the notion of making the name and face of Joseph Kony a household name. Something that people know, someone who people are interested in, and definitely someone who represents the kinds of evils that I hope people actually do care about. But for me, the Invisible Children campaign wasn't news to me. I remember hearing about them when I was in college in the early mid 2000s. And so now what is actually fascinating is that you have another issue going on, which is not just that Joseph Kony is, they're trying to make him a well-recognized name so that he can be stopped, but that you have the use of social media, film being posted and shared on YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, and Twitter, and that use of social media is being exploited so that a new kind of global awareness and mobilization can be enacted, which is fascinating, completely fascinating. The video is right. It starts by noting that the world has changed, and the use of things like Facebook has enabled a new kind of action that can be extremely empowering and powerful in what it can affect. But with that same use of social media, we see it taking off like wildfire right now, spreading this 30-minute video that people are watching and then being motivated to do certain actions, get involved and participate in this Kony 2012 campaign. We can see that this use of social media is powerful, but at the same time, it's scary how fast it can move. And so what is interesting is that after you watch the video, the 30-minute video, you might feel a lot of things, but you may not know or be informed about anything much more other than the fact that there's now a campaign, Kony 2012, to get Joseph Kony famous so that people can stop him. But what we don't get is actually any kind of report on the historical circumstances, the efforts that have been put in the past 26 years of trying to stop him, other ways in which U.S. involvement has already been done, the particular character profile of the NGO of Invisible Children, other kind of humanitarian efforts that have been made, or even the current state of affairs as it is right now. And so you miss a lot of stuff. What you do get is a kind of sense that really parallels a lot about white Euro-American interventions and finally trying to get people to care about Africa. A notion of something that resonates uncomfortably with an idea of a white savior complex or the white man's burden. And also, I think that one of the problems is that it's uncritically supportive of notions of direct military intervention. And while there have been peace talks, I know that the point is to just stop Joseph Kony, right? But by supporting military intervention into a place that so by supporting military intervention, you might be supporting other kinds of militaristic actions that are not so favorable. And this is a kind of faux pas that has played out multiple times throughout history before when we're trying to take out a dictator, an evil person who does atrocious crimes against humanity. In the actions of trying to take that person out, we support other militaristic bodies and agencies that then are also perpetuating wrongs too. So, think back to some of the problems with pretty much anything that the U.S. foreign policy has gotten involved with, but in particular, the old relationships that we had with Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein, for instance, just to name a couple who are pretty well known. But so you have, I want to note that there are two things going on here with this video that I think are interesting. And one, I support the project of making sure that people know and care about who Joseph Kony is and people like him in the world. I think that that's very, very important, and I think it's great to see that people do actually care enough to spread the word about it. But when we're talking about social media and the use of social media, this is a whole other ballgame that the world has changed to the point where now we have to actually do very little to get involved, and we have to do more to make sure that we are involved in responsible ways. So I admit that I shared that video this morning because I want to make sure that people do know and see and care about things like Joseph Kony. But at the same time, thanks to and here we see the interplays of social media sites too. Thanks to the comments and some suggestions of friends whom I really, really respect, we also have to pay attention to the critical side of what social media can bring, or the lack of critical thought in particular. So what we have seen now is that millions of people are watching this video. Very few people are offering critical commentary on it. Very few people are saying much at all that pauses and provides a tiny little gap for us to stop from this thought. We now are exposed to Joseph Kony and the Kony 2012 campaign, and there's no gap between that and saying, I support it, I'm going to sign, I'm going to get involved, I'm going to send money, and I want to do all this sort of stuff to show how much I care about saving children's lives, right? But without that gap, and with the use of social media, we can see that it can be used in very positive ways, but those are just on the other side of the coin of what can be really detrimental, which is a lack of thought and an uncritical support and movement of massive scale that can actually be very, very detrimental in the long run. And at this point, I feel overwhelmed in the sense that the way that this is spreading on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook is almost like it has a momentum that is unstoppable. But hopefully the idea is that we can use social media at the same time to offer a check, a necessary check. I was going to say little, but I want it to be a necessary and sufficient check to the way in which we allow ourselves to be so persuasively moved and motivated without actually thinking. So thanks to social media, you can also go to sites and find reports on charity profiles. You can find historical, critical accounts of U.S. foreign policy and intervention, and you can find a lot of other suggestions and counterpoints that I think are helpful for filling out a story that we don't actually get. You can even follow the story of what some critics are saying against the Invisible Children organization, and you can see how they are responding to the critics, and that is important, regardless of who says what at this point. I mean, there are a lot of like he said, she said kind of stuff going back and forth, but the most important thing is that more than just watching the video, I think we should all try to participate, if we actually want to get involved, participate in recognizing and witnessing the conversation that happens around the activity, that there has to be a dialogue, and there is. Invisible Children, as far as I can tell, is responding to some of the critiques, and they go both ways, which is good. But that should be part of what we are interested in and what we spread and share via social media sites. So I think that when you are interested in using something like Facebook to promote a cause and mobilize people into action and get involved, it's powerful. It's so powerful that it has to be done carefully and responsibly. And we can use the same tools to offer and solicit critical counterpoints and perspectives. So the best one that I found, thanks to a suggestion from a friend who posted it on my wall, is regarding the Kony 2012 campaign, is a post on Tumblr, which is at visiblechildren.tumblr.com, written by Grant Oyston, and it offers a really condensed collection of links that offer more references where you can follow up on some of the problems and just to spur some of the questions that I think should be happening in people's minds before they jump on the Kony 2012 campaign. Know who Joseph Kony is, but think again before really supporting fully and thoughtfully the Invisible Children campaign for what it stands for. The sheer massive momentum that it has within a matter of days is just as terrifying as it is inspiring, I think. So I'm not saying anybody is right or wrong in either direction. I just want to encourage that we use social media to also foster a lot of thought, not just action. So good luck. Thanks all for watching, and share this on social media sites if you think it's worthwhile.